The fact is that I do not believe that Ukraine is going to become a member particularly soon. Before the war, it did seem as even if Ukrainians themselves were very much in two minds about whether they want to become members. Now it seems that the majority of Ukrainians would like their country to become a NATO member because obviously it gives them greater strength. The principle of NATO is that if one country is attacked, then that's the same as attacking all NATO countries. But it does seem to me that many of the existing NATO countries are against accelerated admission of Ukraine into NATO. I think it's because they recognise that if they do that, it will be the red rag to the Russian bear. Um, that the Russians will regard this as very much an infringement or an incursion into their area of the world. And NATO has historically always been the the arch enemy of Russia stroke Soviet Union. And of course, in many ways, Mr. Putin represents a continuity from the Soviet Union period. So I do not believe that it will happen very soon. There are some countries, particularly Lithuania, I'm thinking of, which seem fundamentally against Ukraine becoming part of NATO. And these are the countries that really understand what the ramifications could be of that. I believe that if it did happen, and that NATO stepped beyond giving non-lethal aid to Ukraine, there could be a full-scale war between NATO contingents and Russia. It would all depend on the will of Russia to actually take it to that level. But there's the potential for it. I think that the situation is very, very perilous at the moment. The war has gone on beyond 1 year. Obviously, the occupation of certain areas has gone on much longer than that. So I think that in many ways, Ukraine will not become part of NATO anytime soon for many reasons, but they will receive increased levels of aid from NATO to help them survive this absolutely appalling situation that they've suffered for such a long time. With regard to the West, I would say that all the Western countries are uniformly against Russia in this instance. Even parts of the world which are socialist or formerly came from the Soviet Union, generally speaking, they will all say that even if Russia had a point to make regarding the parts of Ukraine that they have now occupied, this is not the way to do it. That diplomatic methods always should be adopted. War is and should never ever be an option. The only exemptions to this, of course, are countries like Belarus, which are very close to Russia, and of course, in many ways, Armenia, because Armenia and what it has done in Azerbaijan over the past 30 years in occupying 20% of its territories, Armenia in many ways represents Russia by proxy, and it has been proven that certain Armenian businessmen and Armenia itself has represented a route by which Russia can circumvent many of the sanctions that have been placed against it. So there are some countries that are in Europe that are very, very close to Russia historically, politically, geopolitically. But in the West, in Western Europe, certainly I would say that there is outright overall condemnation of the Russian invasion, Russian aggression, and of those countries, I would say that actually the United Kingdom has made the strongest possible statements against Russia. Um, this is partly because of historical reason. Well, first and foremost, it is because of our understanding of the Russian aggression that's taken place. One must not forget that the UK has defended its own borders for over 1,000 years, most notably, most recently, during the Second World War. We know what invasion is about, we know what aggression is about. So, and we certainly believe in the upholding of international law. So that's first and foremost the reason. But then there's also the fact that the Soviet Union was the enemy of the West, was the enemy of the United States, and the United States and the United Kingdom have a very strong special relationship. And then I believe that the UK, because it does not receive substantial levels of gas from Russia, it's able to speak more freely than maybe some other countries in Europe. But everybody here is very, very supportive of Ukraine. When I go into London and I go to the important areas of Westminster near to the Parliament, I see the Ukrainian flag flying. I see people on trains, they're not Ukrainian, but they're wearing the Ukrainian flag. I've been to benefit concerts for Ukrainian refugees. We've opened our borders, as many countries in Europe have done, to Ukrainian refugees who are fleeing for their lives. And I see outright support of Ukraine every single day on television news. So I think that in the West we speak with one voice. Some areas of Europe that were formerly part of the Soviet Union, or would be Eastern leaning, or maybe are still reliant to a greater or lesser extent on Gazprom, they do not speak quite so freely. Their hands are tied a little bit.